Half a day and welcome to DataPoints. I'm excited today because I've been trying to get this guest here. Maybe I probably emailed him once every other week for about 6 months, and from all his projects and just the lack of capacity and traveling and all his board seats, it took a while to land him here. But today we're gonna have Yoon Ho from chairman of Cortec International. And one of the reasons it's kind of nice to get Mr. Ho in here, as everybody calls him, is because he's been in the construction industry for some time and he's made some aggressive moves that maybe aren't on your radar. But he's been involved in the acquisition of one of the larger condo or multifamily units here. He's heavily involved in construction for the military buildup. They own Dusit Place, and are actually probably one of the largest property owners, if not the largest property owner in Guam. And he acquired most of these assets right before the onset of COVID. So he's had to navigate all those things. And they own a bunch of other things like media and all these things. But he's a guy with a vision who has quickly become a major player on in the Guam economy, from construction to development to tourism. Mr. Ho is out there. And if you don't know who he is, you should pay attention to this podcast because he is someone who is making moves here and is shaping the economy one way or the other. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. I really did. And please listen to all of them on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you out there. Thank you. Hafa and welcome to Data Points. My name is Ryan. I'm here with Mr. Yoon Ho, but everybody calls you Mr. Ho. But Mr. Ho is the chairman of Cortec International. And I'm so excited to have you on. And the reason why is because you have been on a journey for many years, but it's because, and I'll let you tell me, but it's because I believe you had a vision. And I see, and I just, maybe even in retrospect, it makes it easier to see. And maybe you didn't know all the things but you started on a path.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk to you about that journey primarily and your evolution of your real estate footprint, and first how you started in construction and then how you evolved into the real estate and the media and all the other things that you're doing, because I really do think the way you are moving is the way we need to align with private industry moving forward to come to viable solutions for Guam.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor. First of all, thank you for your invitation to your wonderful and beautiful show with a good staff. And I came here in 1989. And not many people are aware that I came here only for 2 years because I was in a grad school. So they gave me a 2 years of break so I can go back and complete my master's degree. But I happened to stay longer, much longer. So now it's going to be a 37 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Soon, so 38 years. So um, I agree, life is a journey, but it's made of every single day. And every single day we make the decision in the anticipation that we're going to be alive tomorrow. So we need to make a decision based upon today, but at the same time, the decision that we're not going to regret tomorrow in case we're going to wake up again.
Yes.
So every single day we're doing the same thing.
And I find it interesting that you say that because off camera, we were having a little bit of this discussion,
Yes.
because we hadn't really formally spoken before. But one of the things I've noticed is your focus on process instead of outcomes. And that's something that I recently came to. I didn't just arrive at that. And I was wondering how that folded into your methodology and your way of thinking.
Because life is always bigger. The globe is much bigger than anyone's head. So there are certain things that we can control, and certain things absolutely beyond our even imagination and even calculation. And the philosophy they call it, observed world, because they can't figure out at that time. But when time passes, that you realize, yeah, it was meant to be, or there are some good reasons that happen that way.
And I think that's what I was missing is always the pause. sometimes you get to a place in success where you're just like, okay, I got here, and you presume that you know why you got there.
I cannot agree because things happen beyond our control.
There.
So sometimes we are very lucky. Sometimes even though we put our effort together, and but sometimes it doesn't happen the way we expect. And even though we put a lot of effort and sweat, so I that's why I'm trying to focus on what I can do,
Sure.
and anything beyond, it's just above me.
And I think that's where we've arrived in what we control and what we cannot
That's right.
control,
That's right.
and then the story that we want to tell
Mm-hmm.
versus what actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I circle back to I was actually agreeing with you, because initially I thought that you have to press forward. You just press on with success. But really, the ideal thing is to maybe pause
Mm-hmm.
and assess. Because again, you don't know why you don't know all the reasons.
We don't know everything.
So retrospection, reflection is very important, and inserting those
That's
pauses
right.
in your motion is also important.
Yes. Pause before we make the final decision. At the same time, yes, we have to discern what we can do, what we cannot do. But at the same time, in between, there is another gray area I will call waiting.
Mhm.
So even though we cannot do that now, it doesn't mean that we cannot do it forever.
Yes.
And at the same time, maybe even 5 or 10 years later, we cannot do it, or I cannot do it by myself. But if I can put up the good team, then maybe I can do it in 5 years.
And thematically, I've seen that.
Hmm.
I think, and that is in itself a lesson. It's to maybe understand that this is where we can go, but maybe this is not the right time, or this is not the
Correct.
right place.
Correct. It's like a first love, right? So they call that first love is meant to basically break. But if you really know how to plan ahead, and you basically give some time and wisdom to observe the reality, then you can make the proper decision and right move. And then maybe you will be successful in the first
Okay.
love.
Okay. So I think I think I've grown to the place where I align with that. Maybe if you had told me that, 5, 10 years ago, I may have disagreed with you, but I think organically I've arrived there. But I'm interested to see, to hear more specifically your journey.
Sure.
So, one of the things that you did early that was very aggressive is you Cortec acquired the Emerald Towers.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Long time ago, Mr. Yoon of Yonex, he had an ambition. He purchased a land and he got a financing done. At the time, the Hanil, the partner, uh, made a final decision not to guarantee the loan.
Mhm.
So
Can we set the stage on that a little bit, like
sure,
economically, because that's 2008, right?
that's
Effectively,
about time.
right?
Yes.
And so, if you didn't know Emerald Towers, they set up a big where Donkey is now. They set up this big
Mm.
giant showroom, and there were units, and they're actually bussing people over, investors. But
Right.
was that going to be an EB5 development?
I think so. I think it was EB5 concept.
Mhm.
Not they didn't really clearly mention that because we need to have a regional center
Mhm.
and all those things. They had we used to have a tool, but I think they are already closed today.
Yes.
For your information, we are actually participating in setting up a new regional center
Oh,
on
nice.
Guam.
Okay,
Yeah,
right. To facilitate an investment in Guam.
correct.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
really interesting,
Yeah.
because we're going to talk more, Mr. Ho.
Mm.
I got lots of stuff there. But again, and so they had the big showroom, and then there's all this, and this is a time when Korea is booming, correct?
Yes.
And there was admittedly, like from what I understood, there was a lot of investors coming in by the busloads, coming into the showroom, seeing the thing, and like signing reservation agreements.
Right.
Right. So there was a lot of hype, but then the bottom dropped out.
Correct.
And so Asian economic crisis, everyone's financing, the market sentiment is gone.
Mm.
This is where you're at the precipice.
At the time, I was thinking about, can we revitalize that building? Ironically, people think that we took over through the auction and foreclosure process. So people may think that we will have a very reasonable baseline in terms of the financing cost, etc. But that's not.
Hmm.
So in other words, even though we took over the building, the cost of acquiring existing building at that time, it was not that low, sadly. In other words, if they could push all the way without any interruption, I'm not really sure they could be financially reliable.
Well, you were buying a problem.
We, yeah, assumed the problem,
Yes.
and it was quite heavy.
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
so
no one else took it.
tough. It was tough. That's why the Korea bank, I think it was a Uri bank, they went through the auction 3 times.
Okay.
So and finally we submitted the bid, and I believe Mr. Yoon's team also submitted, and our number was high
Hmm.
because it's not construction bid, so higher the better for the bank. So we took over, and then we went through the process of the foreclosure. So we decided to fund the project,
Self-fund.
self-fund the
Okay.
project. And throughout the process, we teamed up with the First One Bank, and we made a simple deal that they are going to fund in what tower basis,
Okay.
based upon 90% stabilized occupancy.
Right. So the goal is to get to occupancy,
Correct,
what,
correct,
tower by tower, all the way down.
correct.
Okay.
So by doing so, I made a two decision. Originally, it was a 16 and 19, 16 and 19 story, but I just cap it at that moment without building up high.
Hmm.
And at the same time, also there was about 20 unit townhouse design, got approved as a part of the building permit, but I removed that, and we are currently building one villa, very nice panoramic ocean view, and we have a potential plan to build 8 units.
Hmm.
So it's going to be a really, really top-notch residential unit there.
Did you always expect it to be income producing property, or did you have later plans to sell them as individual units?
Potentially, I think everybody is very familiar with the military family housing plan,
Right.
and we understand there is a 800 so-called barracks type or on UH, unaccompanied housing,
Hmm.
and then 1600 military family housing components. We know that a bunch of the contractors slash developers submit a bid, and then half of them qualified to
Yes.
advance. And we expect that NAFAC will release a second phase of the package. So we will know more detail,
Hmm.
but logically, I expect that there will be a big change in terms of the UH component. So I do believe the UH components will be fulfilled by existing hotels, whether it's in Taiwan or outside of Taiwan, because of the current
I
economy
agree.
and tourism. But since it will be heavily reduced or maybe completely wiped out, because what they have in the Camp Bloss is more than enough
Hmm.
to provide the housing for the barracks type units. So going back to family housing, 1600 unit, we submit the package. We include a so-called summer towers at the time initially called Emerald Tower.
Yes.
So it's about 195 unit.
Hmm.
So once we are blessed enough to provide a service to military family housing, it could turn it into military housing.
Right. And I always thought you'd be a unique player in the bid there because of the diversity of your choices, because you have like single family residential, you have the multifamily, and you have that scale in the mix.
Mm.
Right. And I think, do you think aspirationally the military wants to mix with the locals?
They have no choice because we think that they own huge, maybe about 20, 30, 40% of the Guam land.
Hmm.
But because of the realignment, DPRI, they return a lot of pieces property. If I'm not mistaken, I think Anderson has around 5,000 acres.
Hmm.
It has basically set aside for habitats, and they may need to reduce, and then they can justify because they were expecting a bird to come back, but they have never come back for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So even if they go through the process, they don't have enough land.
Well, even at that rate, no. So I've had conversations with these aggregators. You know,
Mhm.
there's big companies out there too
Mm.
who are interested in Guam as a
Sure.
function of this housing effort. And one of the things that I think is unique to the Guam market is there's two classes of subsidized renters,
Mm.
right? There's the military rents, and then there's Section 8,
That's right.
and they're the same effectively,
Actually, unfortunately.
right? But with that as a safety net, there are over 10,000 people, categorically who qualify for this housing. This would potentially qualify for Section 8 if there was housing available.
That's right.
And there's a bunch of military people coming here.
Mm.
And so one of the things I said was, well, why not just mix everybody up? Mix, we Section 8 and military, and like one thing that's like Singapore, right? They mix affordable housing in with luxury housing. And in Silicon Valley, when I was there, they had every luxury development. I was living there because I was Section 8 there. I was Section 8 in Silicon Valley in 2000. I was renting affordably a high-end luxury apartment, right? And by nature of my position in that structure. So do you think there would be an appetite to mix like that?
Because military family housing space or in square foot requirement is quite big.
Mm-hmm.
So current development cannot meet that requirement in general. So I do believe that family housing, it needs to be a new construction.
Okay.
So even I think we have about 2,500 units, but I don't think that many units can satisfy that requirement.
Sure. But I guess we're just going to build all this housing, Mr. Ho.
Right.
So why not build it for everybody, or why not aggregate that effort? So I'm just curious if like there's been any thought of that. And yeah, but I do agree. There's a lot of inventory that's ready to go and ready to be occupied right now for the first phase.
But what they want to basically don't spread out too randomly.
Mm-hmm.
So in the part of the bid process, they specifically asking if we are going to do only 5 enclaves. So anything that lesser than 50 units,
Yes.
please do not
Yeah,
submit.
it's a waste of time. Yeah.
But in reality, it doesn't work that way because 1,600 divided by 5, it's much, much bigger than 50 units.
Sure.
So in other words, they kind of put the minimum 50, but practically it's going to be a much bigger scale.
Yeah, I understand. I agree.
For management standpoint.
Do you think any of the realignment is going to affect any of the construction projects here?
No, I don't think so. We do have over 2,000 man camp, and we are expecting to increase the man camp up to 4,000 plus.
You mean your workers, your labor?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Right.
yes. We do have a local workers, but at the same time, we do have H-2B visa workers, and then we're already getting the building permit for the phase 1, and in the final stage of getting the second phase, which will be basically another 2,000. So I don't think they will have a problem in terms of the labor supply. It's a temporary job. Okay?
But in thinking about like the acquisition, going back to the acquisition of the towers,
Yes.
one of the things that also time and place is there wasn't that certainty about the buildup moving forward,
True.
about the tenancy happening,
True.
about anything. Actually, rents were flat at that time, and it was really hard to find tenants. So that was a time in real estate where a lot of people thought it wasn't going to happen.
That is true.
So how long did it take you to get from acquisition to completion of the tower?
That's a good question. Sometimes I can say if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. I don't really believe that I will make the rational, really calculated decision. I'm not saying that I don't run Excel financial pro forma. We are slave, or any developer financing people are the
Your pro
slave of the
forma.
financial pro forma.
Yeah.
So we understand that, but that's our baseline performance, perimeter. But at the same time, we gotta have some kind of commitment. So if I have to define my job, I will define myself as a contractor / employer, which means my primary job is to keep the employment. In other words, if I don't do my job, then I'm not an employer. So if I can continue hiring and keeping my people get a job, then I'm very happy.
Sure.
I don't want to let go of people because of my mistakes or lack of capacity to expand. And the last one, because some successful people, I'm not against that, they want to protect their success or wealth. So without the specific intention, sometimes they kind of sabotage their own success
Agreed.
by protecting what they currently have. And I respect that. And
Do you?
no, unfortunately, I don't want to be ashamed that I choose safety over my function as an employer.
Fair.
Yeah.
I,
And sometimes I don't want to do that. I want to run away, to be honest.
well, we all do to a
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah. That's why sometimes I need to spend $10 to buy a cigarette to burn.
I used to be a heavy smoker too. Yeah,
I try my best
I
to control.
understand. I get that. You get that grit.
Yeah.
You just want to clench your teeth a little, and then that release after you get that nicotine rush. It's so good. But so I'm glad you said that, because I'm of the mind too that you have to be open to having conversations
Yes.
with everybody, right?
Yes.
And I think not being open to having this conversation is a function of fear.
Mm.
Right? And had someone tell me the other day they don't play well with others, and that's your problem.
Mm.
That's your fear. That's
Mm.
your issue.
Mm.
And I think that a lot of that is manifesting. But also, what I see, Mr. Ho, you speak to this, is there's a lot of people who are kind of hanging on to their story, but that's still in the power structure,
Mm.
and still adamant that the way I did things was the way that things need to be done moving forward. And because there's no evidence that really, to their mind, that shows them anything different.
Mm.
And I see you operating opposite of that.
Mm.
And so I'd like to, so we talked about Emerald Towers. And then from there, where did you see yourself going? So you Emerald Towers, where was the place where, okay, I'm settled? And then where did you go from there?
No, I don't think I'm going to settle until I die.
Okay, fair enough. But I
Yeah.
mean, on your progressive journey, right? On
Yes.
your progressive journey, where was the next step for you? Like, where was the thing that you saw?
As of today, we are currently funding as a owner slash developer slash financier slash contractor. And after completion, we are going to be a maintenance and management company for 60 megawatts solar farm
That's
project.
amazing. Yes.
So we're basically the first local contractor we will build and operate for 25 plus 5 years potentially. Initially, I teamed up with the bond underwriting company. They made a mistake in selecting insurance, so-called lender's insurance advisor.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened when it comes to solar farm projects, I'm talking about the existing solar farm project, there is a property and casualty insurance coverage.
Oh, yes. And that is okay, go ahead. Yeah.
And then there is always a sub-limit for typhoon coverage.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the typhoon, Mawar, etc., this company put a same limit without sub-limit. What that means, first of all, there's nobody who's going to provide that kind of insurance.
And the coverage is unachievable.
Yeah,
Yes.
basically 189 million
Yes.
just for
It's
construction alone.
massive. Yeah.
And same time, even if we're blessed enough to find the guy, the insurance premium alone will be about $4 to $5 million annually.
No, and even having dealt with these projects, Mr. Ho, dealing with different national governments too, in the idea of foreign strife and collection even comes into play there, right? How am I going to collect from this foreign government if we're at odds? And so, yes, these conversations are significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I actually talked to my friends, and you know what? It's not going to work.
Mhm.
Ironically, the same insurance advisor firm, but different city than New York City, they come up with a $25 million sub limit. And they say, we have a Chinese wall, we can't communicate. Okay, let's go to your day. I will finance it.
Right.
So currently, we actually are financing $256 million.
Wow.
And that's a huge risk.
No kidding, Mr. Ho.
So, and we try to figure out what would be a takeout financing. And we're currently working with the two options. But we may just keep it in-house only because of the insurance requirement.
So one of the things that I'm on is that large financing for anything at scale is very hard to come by here.
Yes.
People don't understand the market. And one of the reasons people don't understand the market is because there's a dearth of data on the data side. But say that you had a data structure where you could seed in these intervals for these bond financiers. So at least at regular check-ins, they could see, are my numbers hitting, or how's the health of the overall economy? Do I need to trigger this intervention? If we could set up those interventions in deal structures like that, would that be advantageous to you?
Somewhat it's possible, but every project is unique.
Mhm.
Every project has its own story and history. So whatever I can, if somebody is interested in knowing that, I'd be happy to share my stories.
Mhm.
So so let's talk about the local banks. So banks usually we categorize local banks such as the Bank of Guam, Bank Pacific, and then regional bank like a First Hawaiian Bank and Bank of Hawaii, and a national bank. So interest standpoint, I'm not talking about their leverage capacity. Interest standpoint, usually regional bank can be lower than national slash international level. So we're happy to work with the First Hawaiian Bank and Bank of Hawaii. At the same time, Bank of Guam. So what we need to do, we kind of start working with a local bank first.
Okay.
And then when there is some sort of the cap because of FDIC matter, then we can consider bond financing. However, bond financing, when it comes to that to the value ratio, they can go up to 100%. Not always, but depends on type of the projects. So there are some benefits, and that could possibly provide a long-term financing period. So depends on the type of project, we can find the right matrix.
Have you ever considered? Well, I mean, I know you have a special purpose entity that's a
That's right.
nonprofit,
Yes.
and so you do CDFI through your special purpose
Mhm.
entity. But have you ever, you are a large aggregator of LIHTC,
Yes. Correct.
and so you deal with people who are on a progressive path and maybe
Mhm.
not traditionally bankable, but there could be these interventions built in to get them to homeownership.
Mhm.
So are you progressively working to graduate the people in your LIHTCs to put homeowners at some point? Is there an apparatus for that?
Well, the first project, okay, so let me explain the low-income housing tax credit
Mhm.
project. This is basically a federally funded project.
Yes.
They select a contractor slash developer through how a state housing agency, in this case, GURA. So GURA go through the qualified allocation plan QAP. They select that developer, and then developer turn around, and we call downstream, and developer work with a syndicator,
Mhm.
and the syndicator work with investor who's gonna actually buy tax credits. And so when you understand both, then you need to have a credibility that you can carry out, not only just liquidity, then you can sign the
It's the
contracts.
compliance piece.
Exactly.
Because the people buying the tax credits need to
Mhm.
know that you're a reliable deliverer of the conditions.
Basically, because they have many different options
Yes.
in the mainland, and for them to go overcome, across the Pacific Ocean, especially time difference, and it's very hectic. That's not easy. They don't need to. So going back, so 15 years compliance period plus additional mandatory 15 years. So since the inception of the LIHTC program on Guam, there's no program that met 30 years yet. So maybe the first program after maybe around 13 to 14 years later, finally, the one compound will be released.
Ironwood.
Ironwood phase
Yes.
one. Actually, I was the contractor. So in other words, so Carlos is basically the same age. So after 14, 13 years later,
And they're not doing that anymore. And they're not doing the 15-year anymore, right? They're just doing 30 now.
they have to.
Right.
30 is a
Right.
minimum now.
Okay.
So, and then Gura can have a first right of refusal.
Okay.
And if Gura doesn't buy the unit, then
At the end of the term.
at the end of the 30 years, then the developer team can have a choices to keep it as is, and then they can use as a market rate rental or keep it as a LIHTC rent.
Mm,
And then they can go back to 4% credit bond financing, and they want to do that, they can do that.
I see.
Or, as you mentioned, they can turn around and sell to the tenants.
Right.
However, it's not practically financially possible. Remember, Gura teamed up with Gita to float a bond for the Lighttech. I mean, not Lighttech, Lada Estates. So Guam floated a bond, $50 million in the anticipation. We want to give the Section 8 tenants
Mm.
to own their dream home.
Right.
But it's basically same mistake that one of the U.S. president messed up because he was a Democratic Party, and he felt guilt. He felt guilty because he kind of abandoned iron belt, and then he decided to kind of help the people who are not qualified or eligible to get a regular financing. That's why they came with idea,
Mhm.
basically slip in their application to other package, loan packages. That's why that we have a subprime mortgage crisis.
Okay.
So it's actually political motivation, honorable, but not practical.
Mhm.
Same thing happened to Lada Estate. So if they cannot make enough income, that's why they need some subsidy from Gura, depends on the percentage. Logically, regular bank cannot justify their loan program. So at the end of the day, they had to return the $50 million to the bond market.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's a sad story, but it's a real story.
Mhm.
So that's why Maeda did all the infrastructure. And then through the bid process, they were supposed to get paid by the second contractor who's going to build and sell. That's why Maeda got stuck.
I see.
And they had to go through the legal process they own, but they have no use. So some developers, local developers, try to go through the process that they fail. That's why they came and asked me to take over the property.
I see. I see. So there's not a significant enough. There's no true pathways for those parties to.
There is a way.
Okay.
And in fact, I compile all the packages, legal package, laws and everything, because we're doing some projects and development projects in Hawaii. So we have learned a lot,
Okay.
something quite different from what we're currently doing on Guam. So we make the package and I give some of the senators, but we didn't really see any traction at this moment. Maybe there may be a change, but I did my part. What happened in Hawaii standpoint? Hawaii set aside the funding to issue a loan, sometimes 0% or maybe 0.25%, sometimes 7 years, sometimes even 100 years or 99 years. So they can subsidize, because as you know, the developers, the profit, usually 1% interest goes up, 30% their profit vanishes
Because of the carry, because of all the stuff,
because of
right?
the
Cost of
cost,
money,
carrying
right? Yeah.
cost.
Yeah.
And then contractors' profit is in general everywhere it's about 4%.
Mhm.
That's just standard. Hawaii 2.5%.
Right.
In states it can even lower.
But that's what I mean, Mr. Ho. So and this is where I've arrived, and this is why one of the reasons I'm interested is because banks have a community reinvestment
Correct.
charter, right? And so they can give a SBE a loan, a development loan, and the SBE can come in and put in the infrastructure and absorb all the carrying, and anything that's below interest gets credited towards the banks, whatever the credits they need. But there's not a sufficient data structure to kind of monitor to make it really effective. But if that was in place, a guy like you could come in with an SBE because all you really worried about is more jobs and margin.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So you don't want to be a developer.
Mm.
So if there could be a special purpose entity that is the developer, all the developer profits for loss could be pushed to the buyer.
Mhm.
And that's something I think we need to do, because one of the most successful ways of getting people into houses here was the USDA direct financing program. It's 100% financing up to financing all the closing costs. You get the hit grant, but no one could build for 450,000, and now
No
they
one
can't build
can
for
afford.
no, but they
Yeah.
can't build for 350,000 now
Correct.
either, and they've reduced the limit by $100,000. And now there's people who are stranded. We have about 200 people on that program waiting for houses.
There is one way that we can separate the building itself and infrastructure.
Sure.
So I don't want to I don't want to give a pressure to anybody in the government side. They may also possibly consider similar type of LADA estates.
Hmm.
So government Guam can do infrastructure first and then do the parceling, and then they can and do the lottery process. That's beyond my
But why?
imagination.
But that's how CDFI works, right? You know. Well, I guess like how the raceway was built, how a
Mm,
lot of things get done is contractors come in. Even Hyundai built a
mm,
lot of the
that is
subdivisions
right.
here, right? The contractors get these things done by leveraging capacity in exchange for tax
Mm-hmm.
credits
Mm,
or whatever, right?
yes.
And that's what you've been trying to do in a lot of different ways.
Ah, so there are two major things that I'm involved. One is the light tech, low income housing tax credit. The other one is the new market tax credit. So new market tax credit is by far different from NMTC. NMTC fund is substantially handling the the majority, or not majority, about 95% of the the development cost. NMTC, however, is about 18 to 22%. So NMTC, I know we don't have enough time, but NMTC kicks in with a so-called a leverage loan. And so we don't have a lender in Guam.
Mhm.
And they're not quite diversified or sophisticated in NMTC market.
That's it. That's really what it is. But
Correct.
if we expanded in that capacity
Hmm.
and there was an educational component,
Hmm.
there's a lot of opportunity, not just for the
Absolutely.
developer, but but for the market at large.
Yeah.
Because again, at the end of the day, if you make your 4 to 6%, I'm a
Mhm.
happy guy.
Yeah. Well, actually, so I'll give you one example. Island Charter School
Hmm.
is currently funded by four stacks. One stack, HOT 108 loan program through GURA, because GURA has some funding opportunities. So the timely was quite connected well. The second one, I brought NMTC. So I financed that project. I think it was about $6 million for 0.5% interest rate for 7 years.
Right.
And then, as I mentioned, I'm the slave of the pro forma. I believe I financed $14 million at 4.3%.
But you're financing your own work.
But the current market, if I just put money in First Hawaiian Bank with equity linked note, 7.5%. So I'm losing 3.2% margin, but
Hmm.
it's education, and I'm happy to
Yeah, I get it.
sacrifice it. I'm okay with it. But unfortunately, when it comes to leverage loan, nobody does that. So if I bring NMTC, I end up doing a financier, which basically handcuff my other opportunity.
Understood. Because you're linked
So
to those two sides.
yeah,
I understand.
so
Yeah, yeah.
I am taking for example, Island Charter School. We built the Island Charter School, but now Island wanna move out
Hmm.
because the government of Guam prohibits that it cannot sign the contract more than 5 years.
Okay.
So now Island, they actually send a notice that they are going to move out after 1 year, which is 5 years. So contractually they are correct, but intentionally not correct, and I'm happy for their success. So once they move out, there could be a potential foreclosure process.
I see.
But NMTC doesn't allow foreclosure up to 7 years.
Understood.
So I'm going to be stuck
I get it.
without tenants for 2 years, similar to DFS situation.
Hmm.
So they're supposed to stay there additional 40 years, but they're not really doing good. So they
Right.
decide to move out. So we signed the contract on July 1st, I believe, this year. Instead that they pay us the present value, technically 100 million, so present value 40 million. They pay us token of that. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with that space. So there are a lot of risk as a financier.
And so I'm glad you brought up DFS because you took a massive risk in acquiring Tonota, right? If people don't know, Cortec acquired the Ducit, well, formerly the Outrigger,
That's right. Dosi Tani, Dosi
Outrigger
Beach, Auli,
Beach,
yeah.
right? But if effectively all of Tumon, all the way around the corner, right? And that is some of the most bankable.
Where's the Kleenex here?
But right after you did that, COVID happened,
Correct.
and you stayed steady.
I
And
did.
and what does the other side of that look like? Especially now, you stayed steady, but now I don't know that if you had anticipated your neighbor, your building across the street coming vacant.
It is currently vacant. The power bill alone, monthly, including our neighbor, we're spending $125,000 per month, just the power bill alone. So I don't know what I'm going to do. We're going to take the risk of the mold, or we're going to tone down. So we're still debating. I think our guys will have a meeting
Right.
tomorrow. So we'll make some determination in terms of the temperature.
Right. And that in itself is like a monitoring thing. Eh, but how have you been able to steward all that? And are you still confident in Guam as a viable economic opportunity?
Thank you. It's a very, very fundamental question. Actually, I've been serving GBB for the last 5.5 years, and I'm as a chairman of the Korean Marketing Committee. So I can only talk about KMC. So this week we had a monthly meeting. So I was emphasizing two things. Number one, people think that tourism or hospitality industry, they think it's about the tourist. Absolutely opposite. We're talking about 14,000 employees, drag induced count. And I asked them 3 times, is that really a final and dependable numbers? And I repeated many times, not just one occasion. They confirmed, professional entity confirmed the 14,000. It used to be over 20 plus thousand. So 14,000 times 2.6 average household number. Let's just make it easy. So about 45,000 people are related to tourism.
Yes.
So it's not about tourists. Yes, we have to be nice and kind. We get that. But the reason why so-called China G2, Global 2, they remove the visa. So Korean people can travel to China without visa hassle.
Mhm.
What about Guam? So South Korea and Japan, they have to still go through the Guam CNMI visa waiver. Sometimes takes longer than 7 days.
Mhm.
So we are basically, I get that it's not a local issue, but we are raising a threshold that they have to reconsider. So spontaneous travel is not allowed for Guam from those Southeast Asia and South Korea and then Japan. So what I'm trying to explain, tourism is not about the tourist, it's about us.
Okay.
And if we don't have solid tourism, what's going to happen? Not only just simply that people will not have a variety of choices of restaurant available in Guam, but practically they need to pay additional $3,500 per year
Yeah.
to subsidize that the vacuum of the tax arise from the tourism industry. So it matters to everybody. At the same time, wholesalers, I heard that they have a reduction in 25% in gross revenue. So logically think about it. When we had a 1.5 million arrival, divided by 365 days, times 3.5 or 3.6 average of their stay, it's about 15,000.
Mhm.
So in other words, it's not just a tourist. They are staying as a residence, and we physically saw at the time 15,000 additional population. But more than that, they don't eat their meal in their house because they don't have a house here. So logically, they are eating 3 times more than local people
Mhm.
we eat. That means 45,000 impact. So which is almost 30% of Guam's populations in terms of the food and beverage industry.
Understood. But so what's happening though is the tourists we're getting don't spend like that, and like or it's a package
They
it's
do,
okay.
but they just don't go to Donkey and ABC stores and just a cup of noodle throughout the entire state. That's not true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't believe in the cup of noodle tourists. You
They
believe,
do.
yeah,
They do, but not cross.
not perpetually,
Not,
right? So you're not
yeah,
getting the 3x, but at least you're getting
correct.
times 2 or
Correct.
1, or
Thank you.
you're getting 3x some days.
Yes.
I understand. So what market do you believe in?
As of today, because of the fuel surcharge, which is actually 33, which is the top in the first time in Korea history. But they are going to slow down. They're going to lower it down. And then due to the Korea government, Fair Trade Commission's requirement, the Korea airline, including Asiana, Jin Air, Air Seoul, Air Busan, they need to provide air supply of 512,000 every single year, but including this year, additional 9 years more. But problem, because of that, Jeju and T-Way couldn't compete because of the price issue or oversupply. So we lost almost 300,000 supplies. And we did have in 25, we will not have in 25 and 26. Initially, T-Way considers resume their flight on October. I'm not 100% sure they're going to do so because of the Shalako damages and the fuel surcharge. They cancel many flights. But because of the government requirements, they have to resume. So I will expect from August, not July, we're going to have a humongous air supply from South Korea. However, South Korea standpoint, they have so many different new options: China, Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, and 25, 26 different destination around Japan. So it's going to be very difficult. What I want to see, what I want to say, legislature standpoint, everybody's busy, several hundred pages of the budget bill. It's not practically possible to analyze all. So basically, they calculate based upon the last year, previous track record. But one thing that I want to talk about that, no matter what, tourism industry is the number one pillar of Guam's economy. Even though I'm deeply involved in construction industry, it's just a temporary, transient. 9 years later, 2034, potentially maximum 2035, we will see the cliff.
Right, the construction cliff.
We are going to plummet. That means logically, over 90% of the construction industry will vanishes.
Okay.
Vendors going to get affected. Basically, 100% of H2 visa waivers, they are going not to be able to sustain on Guam. And even H1 visa, they have to find a way whether they are going to get a green card or fly back to Korea or Philippines or Hawaii or other islands or other locations. So we're going to see the major exodus of the people. They will decrease minimum $20 million withholding tax impact in comparison of today.
That is a cliff.
Not including PPT. That's $100 million average just from the military side.
Right.
So what are we going to do? So we now need to prepare. So it's not really GBB issue. GBB is not controlling entity for entire tourism. GBB is a marketing agency primarily. Even though they try to handle portion of the park, we get that. We appreciate that. But in reality, this is so important for Guam's population and future. We have to look at the tourism industry not through the perspective of GBP. It has to be government level.
One mission, and it's this function of leadership.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
And it is important.
Yeah. And so you're saying we have to be on message and we have to be aligned. GVB can't do it all. They're the marketing agency. And so we're on tourism, and I just want to address the third leg notion. Can tourism be the third leg considering currency markets and options?
That's a great question. It's in my opinion. I understand that our president is Trump. We understand that we live in the era of so-called China hawks. So I don't want to really talk about the detailed history background, which I actually did when I was a guest speaker for DAMA 40 years anniversary. So I explained the background.
I don't know what that DAMA is. I'm sorry.
Mapua Institute.
Okay.
They're the top-notch engineering school from the Philippines. So they asked me to explain the background of Guam buildup, which I did. I can share the PowerPoint presentation. So the long story short, the China hawks. So before the U.S. government wants to be a police internationally, but that so-called neoconservative era is gone. So if the president was the president continuously, they were probably talking about the same issue with neocon, but not now. So now they are going to isolate only China. For example, they basically control the fuel supply. As you know, U.S. is a number one fuel supplier. However, that's not their concern. They want to control the petrodollar. That's why they went to
Venezuela.
Venezuela and then Iran, etc., because they have a good ally with Saudi Arabia. So they try to control entire fuel supply.
Yeah.
That's why the China built a solar farm almost 1 tetra gigabytes
Wow.
because they understand what's going on.
Mm.
So long story short, my idea, even though we do have still 3 years to go, I consider 3 phases. Richard is deeply involved, and then he sent out many different emails regarding tourism, and I appreciate his effort.
Richard, I'm sorry. Rennie?
Rennie.
Okay, yeah, I've read his stuff. Yeah,
Yes.
and I remember him, Richard, from before.
So even myself, I admit that I kind of gave up because regarding China visa waiver, I get that because we're doing the military buildup. But in reality, based upon AI, they issue around 500,000 US visa, 10 years visa for Chinese people. So if you kind of accumulate that, potentially we can assume there might be 8 million people who already have visas.
Okay.
So what Richard mentioned to me when we have a personal meeting, if we can just utilize Incheon Airport as a hub, so we draw the perimeter 1 or 2 hours the flight, and then how many people can travel without even visa issue because they already have to obtain one. So I contact my guys in Korea, GBB Korea manager. His name is Jay. Jay, what do you think? And what we discussed, let's contact Korean Air and let's try to use Korean Air office in China because it can be a direct connecting flight. So we try to build a case.
Mhm.
So phase 1, of course, is going to take the 3 to 5 years, and we are going to have a Chinese people with the current visa, so they don't have to go through hassle.
And you said
Then
there's 8 million.
8 million in total, possibly. But in this 2 hours radius, maybe about minimum 2, maximum 5 million.
Okay.
Because if you really look at Chinese people's population, it's just a one certain area
Okay.
because of the desert, etc. So the phase 1 focusing on using Incheon as a stepping stone. And the second phase, we're going to talk about the charter flights. And then third phase, of course, the direct flight.
Okay.
By that time, we do believe that the situation and environments will mature enough to talk about the flight,
A
international
direct,
flight,
like actual
at
one.
that time.
That's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. But also, so we're Chinese people coming here would beget like a national carrier,
That's
right?
right.
And that would be ideal because that would maybe open up Taiwan too, to a degree. Does China Airs fly out of Taiwan?
Taiwan, we do have direct flight because of the United Airline, and I appreciate that. And I really believe that United having Guam as a hub point is really, really a blessing to Guam.
Yes.
Even though sometimes we talk about, a little high price between Guam and Saipan.
Well, we know.
That, but
Come on, it's like the gas prices. Come on.
but
There's a safe somewhere.
but at least we have.
Yeah.
So I truly appreciate that. So if we can consider not just Taiwan, because Taiwan population is about 24 million,
Okay.
but most of them, they fly out because it's kind of, island situation. They travel out, outbound travel is humongous. But I don't know if we can be truly successful based upon track record.
And you're speaking of like history of Taiwanese to Okinawa and like Palau and other destinations. You're
Correct.
talking about track record.
And
right?
also even to Guam.
Okay.
So we've been putting a lot of effort. So I'm not saying that we should give up on that, but I'm saying that we cannot just focus on Taiwan only.
No, I think so. We've been studying tourism. So DataPoints behind it is another organization that models data,
Mhm.
and that's one of the things we've been looking at. Is first we looked at Korea back when back when we should have been paying attention to Korea and how
Mhm.
it could have scaled if we had really just been paying attention
I
to it at
see.
the
I
time,
see.
right? And what we're seeing too is Taiwan is kind of rife like that. It has all the economic precursors, passport penetration, age of population, all that stuff, right? And then also we see Korea's economic cliff that Japan is kind of experiencing relative to like immigration and
Mm.
labor and the age of the population and birth rate and all that stuff. So everyone regionally has maybe like a 10 to 30-year tail.
Mm.
And then after that, things are going to really dip and we don't know where we're going to
Sure.
be, right?
Sure. There's
And then
always a cycle.
right, and then we got Elon Musk out there making space flight like
Mm.
achievable. That's going to change logistics.
Right.
If you think
Right.
about it, there's going
Right.
to be the third mile logistics is going to be different because it's going to be coming from different space potentially. So that's changing. Currency,
Mm.
there's just so many disruptive forces, and I
Mhm.
guess it's like it's really hard to bank it. But what we're seeing in Taiwan is we see the potential, but no one regionally has seen that downstream result.
Yeah.
And so there's this treasure hunting show that I'm kind of obsessed with.
Mm.
It's like it's like these crusaders buried a treasure in Nova Scotia somewhere, and they're testing and they're drilling all these holes in this area, and they're finding trace of gold and
Mm.
silver and
I
high, like
see.
it wouldn't be there unless there's a treasure chest, but they just can't find it, and they keep drilling holes.
Mm.
So that's kind of the notion, is like we're in a market where there is potential, but we just haven't figured it out.
That's right. I agree with you. Since you mentioned currency twice, so Chinese government controls the currency.
Mm.
That's why even though we see huge impact, especially in South Korea and Japan
Yeah.
as well, but we don't see that impact and changes in Chinese yuan.
Okay.
That's another reason that I consider
So it
China
makes it easier to,
much
yeah.
easier,
Right.
much easier.
But even regionally too, for there's more disruption versus the dollar versus the RMB. So like
Mhm.
travel is naturally
Correct.
progressing in places where
Correct.
the currencies are more favorably viewed by
Yes.
the Chinese currency.
And also, I heard from somebody, the Chinese government official says that please work on up to 100,000 arrival from
Hmm.
China. After that, the government side can help and promote.
Okay,
Then you can fly out to 1 million so quickly.
I see.
I believe in that
So you
logic.
think China is the answer?
As of today, we cannot neglect.
Understood. Okay.
Mm.
Ah, so where talk to me about more about I want to go back to alternative materials and insurance, right? One of the things that we're talking about is structural realities. Everyone's going to build concrete here. It's tried and true.
Right.
Everybody knows.
Right.
As a developer to endeavor to design build, because I've talked to those NAFAC
Mhm.
guys. I've tried to talk about 3D printing and steel housing, and they said, "Well, give me a prime who has the guts to put a design build in front of us and
Mhm.
execute."
Mhm.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever proposed like
Yes.
metal or steel?
Yes. Actually, currently we're doing over $1 billion just for housing.
Okay.
It's about $580 million for barracks type, and 289 and 225 just a single detached military family housing in Anderson Air Force Base. So the last phase, the NAFEX says that, you know what, it costs so much. I will let you guys come up with so-called alternative construction method. We call it ACM as an acronym. So we had a very lengthy meeting internally. We came up with a solution, so-called, and they said that, I'm talking manufacturer, I'm not going to give you a name
Sure.
because it's a failure. So they said they have done a couple of projects, and we gave them military specs. We call UFC, Unified Facility Code, not just the IBC. They said they can check all the boxes. They cannot.
I understood. But even with folding in alternative materials, like we have fiberglass rebar that would
Yes.
effectively like reduce the cost of construction because of loads, or 3D printing to a degree, which is wonky now because the efficacy of the machine, and you have to do it at scale. But what do you just think concrete is the way to go?
No, I'm not. Um, we're actually currently helping the temporary Simon Sanchez School with a modular type
Okay.
and
Modular steel.
modular steel.
Okay.
But it doesn't need to be steel. And I mean, there are many broad definition of modular, so I'm gonna just make it very simple. It could be just the pre-engineering,
Mm-hmm.
knock down all these different pieces, or it could be almost pre-made. It's like a portable through the trailer. So a very variety of the meaning, and everybody using and very broadly. So me personally, I'm very much interested in building modular type,
Yeah.
and if we can meet that insurance requirements, the strengths and the windstorm, all those things, definitely we can handle that.
But again, in Taiwan, that's a storm alley, and there's a
Mm.
lot of steel, like
Mhm.
structural steel in Taiwan. And people don't realize how much structural steel is here.
Mm-hmm.
The hotels, concrete board, even a lot of the Litex are steel roof,
Mm.
right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so
Not on my side, but the other side.
it's a fair distinction. Curious as an aside, how many of your employees actually live in your housing?
We do have a little more than 3,200
Employees total.
employees total. I think about 1,800 plus minus.
And I think that's so important. As a large scale employer, people have to find housing solutions for their
Very
people,
true.
for retention and
Very
and to nutrition. And even you're in the luxury business to a degree with Ducit. If you want luxury staff, you have to have continuity
That's
and frame
right.
of reference. You want to walk in and see the same guy 10 years later that remembered me on my vacation. So that's really hard to do without that.
Can I joke? One of my good friend invited me to New York, and she gave me a key to stay in her condo. Very nice condo, very expensive. But the layout, I think my light tech is better.
How Israel told me the perfect floor plan. He drew it on a napkin.
Michael is
It's
very
a
creative.
box. But yeah, it's perfect. But yeah, no, I understand that. I understand you have a love affair with your design too because of the efficiency and because
Efficiency.
of the
Efficiency.
and that's what a real developer is, right? I have a model and this works for me and it's margins and it's execution.
Not when I say efficiency, it's not just talking about constructability. The end game, because we're not just a contractor.
Yeah.
We maintain not only facility, we manage the lease components. What that means, we need to do the design for easier maintenance, especially access issue.
Yeah.
At the same time, we need to have it not only physical, but also financial occupancy of the units. So if we don't design right
Yeah.
for the tenant's perspective, it's going to be a
Yeah,
failure.
customer satisfaction
Yeah,
is
exactly.
important. You got to fill the seats.
Yeah, we have to
at
give
the
what
end
they
of the
want.
day. You're providing a service.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
it's a structured service to serve a need. But
Right.
it's still a service at the end of the
And
day.
that starts from the design.
Yeah. No, I agree. But what do you think? So with that, so you're bringing this modular housing here, but people don't. We were talking about Guam and modular steel and those kinds of. There's Rabda here. There's Lockwood. There's Gigacrete. There's
Many
five steel
different-
houses.
yeah.
Dr. Ma was doing stuff, and so with all that, they've come to the market and they're insured, but there's generally only one or two carriers who insure it, and presumably that risk pool is about maybe 5-6 million.
Yeah.
If
see.
it gets beyond
I
that,
see.
no one's going to want it.
I see.
So with that, how can captive insurance help get some of these things off the ground to help with the reinsurance
I
risk?
can handle if I own it or partially own it. If I don't own it, then I cannot. I'm not allowed to provide insurance coverage.
I see. But more so, how can the government create programs that will help you do the things that you need to do? Because we talked the CDFI, that's a viable program that you can leverage. How can it get better? LIHTC's viable. How can it get better? All the ways that you're captive insurance viable. What can programmatically, structurally, legislatively Guam can do to set you up for success so you can do the things you need to do to give jobs?
Not for me. Basically, I had a very interesting conversation with former GITA chairman, David John. Because David John is so focusing on affordable housing. So one day, it was a very informal meeting. Dave, we don't have family housing crisis. And he asked me, why? Why do you say that? Well, you know what? Even low income housing tax credit, we have a cap. Sometimes we cannot even increase nationally approved the cap, the rental amount. Why? Because if we do follow the guideline, people will just exit out and go to their family's house, mother's house.
Hmm.
And we don't really need a lot of people stand by and wishing to build or owning. No, that's not happening here. And he woke me up, and I was wrong. He said, a lot of young people, they cannot even dream of owning their homes in Guam. That's why they gave up and they leave Guam.
Yeah.
And it hit me hard. And I said, you know what, Dave, I'm wrong. You're right. We now need to look at the affordable housing in different way.
Hmm.
So the first thing that I can come up with, as I mentioned in LADA, if government can handle and provide infrastructure, and the reason why we have a high population in northern parts, because of infrastructure.
Yeah.
And infrastructure was given because I'm talking about sewage treatment plant, etc., because of military. So if you really look at Guam's development, and they put Route 1, Marine Corps Drive, Route 16, Army Corps Drive, and Route 3, Camp Loss, they basically try to connect the dots between the military base.
Hmm.
That's why they did the installation of all the utility,
Right.
then
The
facilities,
fuel
etc.
pipelines go where the
And
fuel
then
pipe.
we're basically the beneficiary of those development.
Sure.
So if government of Guam can spend and invest into the infrastructure, that could be very efficient and lower down the housing price.
Right, but the government is never going to be able to do it because
They
of
did for the Alada.
yeah. But then to imagine to do it now, anytime any construction project gets mired in procurement and protests, right? No, it's real, Mr. Ho, right? So even if you're the guy and you did everything right, someone's going to try and pull you back into the bucket just competitively because the system is set up to do that and it incentivizes people to do that. So I think you need to be disincentivized to do that, or you need to create an apparatus that exists outside that to execute. And I think going back to the educational piece, banks can align, local banks can align with the idea of a downstream, like if we're leveraging CRA, if we wanted to do a development loan.
But they need some help from the government. For example, LADA, there is a restrictions.
Okay.
So they're qualified as a beneficiary of lottery. So they get the land, they build a house, but they fail to pay the mortgage payment to the bank. Can bank foreclose the property at this moment? There's
No.
a some story, right?
Right. That's
So
correct.
if they can just loosen up on that, then bank will jump and finance it.
Fair enough. And yes, like you say, like some of the CDFI partners are ready to come in with those, but it's just the legislative issue
Yes.
where it's like I can't foreclose and the definition of the leasehold estate and then also the power of the lender.
The intent of the legislature is honorable.
Yeah.
They want to protect the people and local people. But you know, when I have 3 children, when I raised them up when they were very young, I repeated many, many times, I'm not going to file a bankruptcy to wake you guys up. If I support people outside my bloodline, they would appreciate me. So please consider me as a manager at orphanage.
Mm.
You stand your own. And if they cannot manage it, they're not going to get my asset.
Fair.
And they have to prove that they don't need me. You know, I'm not just a dad, I'm a father. Father means I have to make sure that they don't need that. So that's my duty. Same thing. So legislature standpoint, the intention of protecting is extremely honorable. But if you're trying to overprotect,
Yeah.
then there could be unintended consequences.
Fair. Yeah. So that I think that's insightful because and just finding that balance, but also maybe you don't really know what you're protecting people against, right? I think
Yeah.
sometimes the specter of fear
Mm,
and lack of understanding
mm.
causes more problems than letting the issue persist and letting people deal with it
You
themselves.
know, having sense of fear is very healthy, but staying there is not healthy.
I agree. Yeah. And it's how you address it. That's the differentiator,
Mm,
in a lot of ways. Are you going to let it like crawl in? And I think this is something that I've been noticing is we just always look externally for solutions, and we say the federal government and this
yeah,
and that.
I
And
understand.
this is why, I asked you to come on, because you are not someone who seems to be looking externally. You're someone who is moving and has a vision and is not waiting for anyone to solve the problems.
So, as a contractor, we usually get the job from the government, a local government or federal government, or private developer. Sometimes the private developer, they use all of our efforts, and sometimes they cancel, sometimes they just play not fairly. That's the only reason that I decide to become a developer.
I say,
Mm.
yeah,
And I'm not saying that CTI is the most cheapest contractor, not always, but they deliver on time.
yeah. Well, I find myself having to, and I think honestly, Mr. Ho, a lot of businesses desire to have a service or an arm that's executed in a certain way and it
Mhm.
doesn't exist in the market. So they just stand it up and do it on their own in a lot of ways,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
But you would love to have a sophisticated market to take that off your hands to a degree, maybe, and you
Of
can just
course,
focus on contracting, right?
of course.
No one wants to do the subset, they just want the service. I didn't want to build a real estate records platform. I just wanted to sell real estate.
You didn't have a
I
choice.
didn't have a
Unfortunately,
choice.
nobody does that for you.
Right. And so, and then again, we come to this, I did I don't know if you went, but it's the conference for island sustainability.
Mm.
And one of the things that's pervasive there is the notion of resilience.
Ah,
And
very good word.
I respect resilience, right?
Yes.
Entrepreneurship and there's a lot of resilience, Mr. Ho. I'm sure like there's a lot of rumination going on like in the dark times when, when those bills are coming due and there's no one coming in. And that's the strength, the perseverance and the trust in your process that you're going to get to the next step. And even if it's not going to be perfect, I'm going to get to
Mhm.
the next thing. But there's resilience as a vision moving forward, and I know what I'm doing, and resilience as I'm just getting beat up here. I'm just sitting here and I'm
That's
getting
it.
bashed by the
Yeah.
waves, and it's because I've chosen this bad spot
Mhm.
where if I just moved a little bit to the left, my
Mhm.
experience would have been much more palatable and greater and beneficial to me. And I feel this is where we are. We're just so entrenched in this spot and the way
Mhm.
we're doing things, where maybe we should just shift to the left. And the data is telling us to shift to the left, but we're not moving.
Yeah. So very recently, I asked our CEO. She's accounting. I mean, she's a CPA basically, and she's been with the company for 27 years. And I asked her, when did you feel that you can breathe?
Mm,
So I've been here for 37 years, and then this year, CTI construction company, 35 years. So I asked her, when did you start breathing? And she said, when we sold the bond to take care of some financing.
right.
And she asked me, what about you? I said, 2025. Just last year, middle part of last year, just about 1 year ago. And finally, I was able to start breathing
Was it in October?
before.
Okay.
So people may think that we're doing okay or even good, but internally,
Mr. Hope, I read something. It's a leader's job to be the opposite of the team.
mm,
So if the team is high, your job is to be measured.
mm,
And if the team is low, your job is to be high. And
mm.
in all the in-betweens.
Somebody has to do the job. And if I, for example, solar projects, if I decide to be a rational or conservative, I could have just cut loss
Mm.
and let go. At that time, I think about 6 million first time. I was okay with that. But I debated, can I just proceed with our own financing? and I see how am I going to convince our bonding company. We have 3 bonding companies. How am I gonna convince my banking partners? How am I gonna do that? It was tough, a decision. So it's just been not even 1 year actually.
Is there
I'm able to
peace?
breathe.
Is there peace now?
I'm in peace.
Hmm?
I'm in peace. But the problem in my environment is always like a darkest tunnel without any silver lining.
Because those are problems that you sign up to solve. That's your job.
Once,
You get the worst.
well, contractor, if you don't win the project, all you have to do just to close the shop. Nothing to talk about. If you take on a project, the hangar project, 2 hangars, there are only 2 hangars, so-called hardened, bomb-proof hangar in the whole world. I lost $83 million. And then my partner just basically with the guilt that they left initial investment, the $12 million. And Anderson basically, NAFAC, they pay $18 million for request for equitable adjustment. And I was the victim of Obama administration. They canceled H-2B visa.
Yeah. Yeah, that was rough. Yeah.
And then they changed the bomb removal, we call MEC process. Instead of 6-inch, they want us to go through 6-inch forever.
Of all the administrations that I thought would not do that, I was shocked. I couldn't believe the H2 that problem persisted. Yeah.
I ate it. Even Saipan, we got out the occupancy permit, conditional, I think temporary occupancy permit. There are small punch list items we have to address. Typhoon Shinlaku came in, $1 million damages. Insurance will not kick in.
No.
I have to pay from my pocket. We got to be honorable.
Yeah.
Because they get the federal funding, but they are not going to get additional funding for that purpose.
Right.
So we eat. But life, you don't know. That's why when you wake up in the morning, let's appreciate that we have another day. I don't know what kind of day it will be, but we have a chance.
I recently talked to a member of my team at a tough moment, right? And it was a moment where they couldn't win. It's the customer was really on them, and it was really just the frustration of the customer in the situation at the moment. And I said, yeah, that sucks, and it's not fair. That's the life we signed up for.
Yeah.
So why do you do this? Why do you do this to yourself?
Well, first of all, if I give up, in fact, my good friend, we had a coffee infusion across from ITC. This was a 2021. That was Michael.
Israel. Okay, right.
We're having coffee. And he asked me, why are you doing this?
That guy's asking you.
And it took more than a year, literally more than a year, to understand his statement.
Right.
Because it was not in my dictionary. I thought it's my duty, it's my job. I've been doing for how many years, right? So it's me. But finally, I understood what Mike mentioned and meant. And I wake up. If I'm going to agree, what's going to happen? I don't know. I don't think it's honorable that I sabotage my success and protect what I have. I don't think I'm going to do that, period. And if I don't give up, let me explain something. I've been patronizing and providing green card for many people since 1996. So the very first time when I petitioned them with the one condition, because I want to be free from this life. So it was 7 people. I told them. I still remember
this construction life.
Construction. I'll get you a green card with one condition. You leave the company. So I can have my life back. 5 years ago, driving from airport, going to my office, and I call out of blue my son in Georgia. Son, I love you. And he said, Dad, I love you too. But what happened? Something's wrong? No, I want to say that I want to let you know that I prove that I love you. He was laughing. Why? Why are you saying that? Because I didn't ask you to join the construction company.
You're not gonna subject him to your.
So I guess I don't love myself, but it's fine. So I'm gonna continue, and I talked to my guys, and I'm committed to you guys for 2030, for December 31.
Okay.
And I even changed my email address, my phone number. Don't call me, don't reach out to me after 2035.
Is the order in?
I've done enough, and
Right.
I'll commit it. That's it. And it's not my fault that military installation development will be done by that time. It's not my fault. It will be over 70. Okay, leave me alone. I publicly emphasize many times, enough is enough. So 9 more years to go.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Well, I hope to continue these conversations throughout the years as we
Sure.
continue to monitor your journey, Mr. Ho. And I really appreciate the time
Thank
and,
you.
and
Thank
the
you for,
insight.
thank
It's
you for the
been really great getting to know you and understand a little bit of your journey. So thanks for joining us, and
Thank you.
thanks to you for joining us on DataPoints.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for the team.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
I feel like I just ran uphill and downhill, and I'm just kind of like, I'm at the bottom, and it was a journey for sure. I absorbed a lot of information. I learned so much from a conversation with Mr. Ho, because from the outside deal analysis, I touch a lot of things. I'm privy to a lot of things. I have insight and I have experience. Um, but it's rare that you get on the execution side of these large projects. It's real. There's only a small team of people who do these things, and they don't happen very often. $600 million solar projects, 200 million utility financing. These are the types of things that move Guam, and they really require people to encapsulate and integrate huge amounts of risk and solve big problems. And that's really hard to do. And if you can do that, when you get out on the other side, you feel some kind of way, and it builds this self-efficacy and this belief. But it all starts with the faith and the self-belief to try. And Mr. Ho has, and look what's happened. And I think we all can try a little harder to do the hard thing, and learn more about the unfamiliar so we can tackle these challenges. And we look forward to tackling these challenges with you, with data and information and conversation here on DataPoints. Thank you for joining us, and please look out for us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and also Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And please send us your questions, your comments, and follow us. We're out there, and we're trying to find out answers to solve problems here. Thank you.